Welcome to the Limitless Leaders podcast. This is a show where my guests and I explore and expand on all things mindset, leadership, and communication. On the show, I interview inspiring leaders, business owners, and entrepreneurs from all walks of life, where they share their stories, experiences, and lessons. This is a podcast for you if you're looking to learn, grow, and accelerate your life, career, and who you are. Welcome to the Limitless Leaders podcast from wherever you're chiming in from around the world. I'm super excited to introduce you to today's guest, Alex Pirouz. So Alex has a boutique advisory firm called Windsor Advisers that he founded with his long-term business partner, Mark Middleton. This advisory was set up to help companies achieve their growth plans in the quickest, most effective and profitable way possible using their unique 40-step framework. Over the years, Alex and his team have been fortunate enough to have exited multiple businesses of their own and generated north of $500 million for businesses that they've advised using this exact framework. Some of these include Formula One, KPMG, NAB, Westpac, Reminiscence, Microsoft, and many more. With decades of intellectual property and experience, they work up close and personal with their clients to ensure they get results. Welcome, Alex.
Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Been really looking forward to our chat today. And I'd love to sort of kick off with, I guess, I believe everything happens to us for a lesson and creates who we are and who we're continually becoming. How have you got to do what you're doing today?
A lot of scars, a lot of successes, I'd say. My journey has been an interesting one. I quit school halfway through 11, went into 8, 10 different corporate roles, really found that it wasn't for me. Never really liked working for anyone else and was a bit of a misfit. And then at age 22, I started my first real business. And for the first 4 years, I actually failed in my first 4 businesses and lost close to $1 million until the 5th one really took off. And a big part of that was me getting a mentor on board to really help me understand how to become a better entrepreneur, what I was doing right and wrong.
Yeah.
And then the sixth one was a success as well, and that's how I got into advisory after that. So yeah, it's been an interesting ride, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that bit about scars. I have a bit of a saying, welcome the unwelcome, because it's coming anyway, and it depends on how we embrace it as to what we will learn from it. What would be sort of the biggest gift or lesson that you've learned that you know our listeners or viewers could really use in this of work?
In business or in life?
Let's do a business one and a life one, and they probably align anyway. Yeah. I've learned nothing happens to you, it happens for you. That's probably the biggest thing that I can sort of share, mainly because it sort of translates to a lot of areas in life. So nowadays, when a challenge is presented to me, I don't look at it as a challenge. I see it as an opportunity to grow first and foremost. And I 100% fundamentally believe that I would not be presented with that challenge unless I was ready. So, and it's happening for me, not to me. Whereas in my earlier days, in the first 4 businesses, I, used to get disgruntled when a challenge or obstacle would hit, when I'd be facing one of those. So, I think that's probably the biggest gift, because it just completely changes the way that you tackle situations. Yeah, definitely. And I love that. I live my life like that too. It's a great reframe, to me or for me. To me is a bit of a blame game. And we tend to look outside of ourselves, where's it coming from? Who's responsible? But for me, and I do believe that everything is how it's meant to be. And we have everything within us to deal with anything. And, even if you're listening to this now and going, yeah, woo woo, what is this? Even if you don't truly believe it, it will change your mindset to deal with it more easily and more effortlessly, which I think's key. I'm a big advocate for limitless leaders and limitless leadership, which are simply leaders that learn, unlearn, relearn, and evolve in all areas of life, such as, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, and socially. I see you as a limitless leader, Alex, just from things I've seen and read of you and your energy. I'm very into energy. What do you think, makes up an effective and fulfilled leader in this day and age?
I think, look, a lot of this for me comes down to one single word, and it's caring.
Yeah.
I think if you truly care about the people within your organization, like not caring to tick off some quota that you need to, but really actually understanding who they are, what their goals are, and really helping them get there, whether that's with your organization or not. I've had some team members where I've done a sit down after 6 to 12 months, and I've realized that the direction that they now want to head is completely different to where we can take them as an organization. And I've based to our detriment. I've actually said you should really look at changing up your career plans in order to be able to get to where you want to go. And look, some of them have ended up staying with us for a couple of years whilst they were doing that transition. But I think that's the level of care that you need in order to really cut through and help people achieve what they want. And by doing that, naturally, you're going to create a culture where people want to do more for you. They'll work on Saturday, Sunday, not because they have to, because they want to. So fundamentally, I think it comes down to that. I also think, looking at that word again, caring. For example, I think too many times leaders have not all leaders, but the ones that are really sort of transform themselves, they have a bit of a chip on their shoulder. Yeah. I'm not going to do that. It's beneath me, or everyone should really be following my lead when it comes to this. They're not open to feedback. Yeah. And so one of the things we used to do in the previous business is it was a flat line approach. So if I had time and I saw the phone ring, I would answer the phone. If the bins had to be taken out, I'd take them out if I had time. And vice versa, team members would step up and do some of the things that I would need to do. So I think that's the right approach to building good culture and great leadership.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. And, care, if you really do care, it comes back to integrity and authenticity and an abundant mindset. We all know those people that hold on to parts of work and clients because they link success to money, not making a difference, with the right person at the right time. So I think that's really, really important. I was just going to ask you a little bit about, you do a lot of work. Do you want to just sort of run through an overview of what you do and what you're seeing out there, because the world's changed and the world of work, I think we're in this next normal.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So at Windsor, essentially what we do is we go into companies and help them develop scalable sales and marketing engines that are closely aligned to their growth plans. And essentially the whole goal of that is for them to achieve those growth plans in the quickest, most effective and profitable way possible. And we've got a framework that we implement within businesses that we work with to sort of achieve all that. Yeah. What I've noticed, especially from a sales and marketing front, is that there's not one business that has all the different puzzles when it comes to the sales and marketing really fine-tuned and working together. Yeah. Yes, they might have a great sales process, good team, but they're on the wrong channels or they're focusing on the wrong products. So I think the key to it all in terms of scaling fast is making sure sales and marketing is working in unison. So, yeah.
Yeah, really important. I spent 12 years with Mars Master Foods, That was my corporate life up until 2006 when I started my company now, and I worked in both sales and marketing, and it was great being on both sides, we did actually work quite well together. I became sort of that conduit, but I think there's a lot of work to be done there, but more so there's so much opportunity to be in sync and really make the magic happen.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think obviously marketing has evolved dramatically and continues to every single year. So it's a matter of understanding the growth plans and then reverse engineering from there. So, which is again one of the mistakes companies make is they have these products and services. They don't take the time to do the foundational stuff. Okay, what's our growth plans? We're at 10 mil, we want to go to 20. All right, what's the path of least resistance to getting there?
Yeah.
Well, this product has a 25% profit margin, whereas this one is 15%. Maybe we shouldn't focus on that. Let's go to 25%. Now, is that scalable enough in terms of market size to achieve our growth plans? And then once you even do that, then you got to think, can I even get the reach on the specific platforms that I need to be on to generate the leads in order to convert the sales? So there's so much work that you need to do on the back end to get a good strategy in place. And then it's a matter of following through and executing, which very few companies are good at doing on a consistent basis anyway.
Yeah, that's right. And especially the ones that are globalized versus localized, you've got different hoops, I guess, to jump through, as we know. If we've got a business out there right now sort of ruminating over this, going, I don't know, where do I start? What would be a good question that sort of helps them gauge where they're at as far as growth and having the right, the cogs in place?
Oh, there's so many elements. I honestly do believe that the best exercise any business can do is to reverse engineer all the way from their growth plans. Yeah. I actually think that's the most powerful thing within any business, because it just gives you so much clarity, gives you structure, gives you a path to follow.
Yeah.
So, for example, if I was a software company and I was doing 8 mil and I wanted to go to 12, my immediate thought is, how do I get to 12 million, this extra 4 mil, based on the path of least resistance? I'm looking at the profit margins based on products that, platforms that I need to be on. How long is the sales process? What are the conversions? Like, I'd be looking at all of that and developing a plan, then executing. I think that's what I would do.
Yeah, and it makes sense. It's the old start with the outcome in mind and work back, really. And, create the system, as James Clear says, create the system to achieve the outcome.
Another thing as well, sorry to cut you off. One other thing that is another great exercise is, I went into a company and they were doing radio advertising and paying quite a bit of money for it. And when I looked at the leads that they were generating in the business based on their spend, and then the profit margins that were within this particular service, they were actually losing money. So just imagine that you're spending 350, 400 grand. You're generating very few leads, so it's costing you a lot. And then even when you convert those leads, after you look at all the profit margins in place, you're actually losing money. So there's probably no point running the service or the ads. So that's another great exercise. Just do a bit of a stock take around your sales marketing engine to see what some of the issues might be, and then fix those first before putting a plan in place.
Yeah, definitely. Goes back to that old review and renew, I think I always say we get caught up being human doings, not human beings. And I'm a big believer, Alex. I do a lot of work on emotional clearing and neuroscience, and I'm a big believer that, your conscious brain, which is only, a few percent that we use, is our goal setter, but our unconscious brain is our goal getter. So really
Yes.
tapping into not just what you have to do, but who you need to be in that moment to execute and implement. I think that's pivotal. Yeah. I'd love to ask you, we talk about limitless leaders. So I'd love to have a chat with you about what does leadership mean to you, and who's a leader that you admire? They don't have to be famous, by the way. Could be anybody.
Uh, like the first person that comes to mind is my dad. The way that he led our family, the way that he stepped into his role, the way that the sacrifices he made, and just he was probably the most selfless person I've ever met. I haven't met anyone that even comes close to. And I always say that if I become 10% of who he was, it's a great achievement, both at a husband and father perspective, and just as a human being. So I think he taught me a lot about leadership and what it takes to lead. Caring, sacrificing, having the right values. Like my dad's number one value was always family, number one. So whenever things came up that, like for example, he worked a couple of years. He came, so we migrated in 1989.
Yeah, okay.
He had a high level accounting exec role.
Yeah.
And when he came here, he started working in a tire shop. Now, that to me is leadership, because he's sacrificing his career for the family. So yeah, he's a great role model and continues to be.
I love that. I resonate with that with my parents. Very, very similar. And I think it's the sacrifices are really, you sacrifice things to move through and bring others and rise together. And I think, in this day and age, I always say, Alex, we're all leaders, because we're leaders of self, leaders of decisions, or maybe leaders of teams. And I think I always say leadership mindset and a choice.
Yes.
Probably the same. I go into some companies and I'll spot someone a mile away and I pick up on sort of energy, and I'll actually go, is that person a leader? And they'll go, no, he's not in this program. He's only been with us a year, but they'll have more leadership presence and
yes.
going to them than some of the other leaders. So, if you're listening to this and you're that person people gravitate to and you're in a service mindset continually, you're already leading.
Yes.
So yeah. I think that's an important distinction.
Yeah. And I think, a good example of this, I remember once we had a account manager in the previous business, Michelle. It was around 8 a.m. and she called me, and so our office used to be in Docklands, and she was literally near the wharf and just couldn't move. She was extremely sick. And so I went over there. But so I went over to check on her, obviously, but my schedule was packed. And that day we were set to close at least 4 or 5 deals. And by, closing those deals, we would have actually achieved our quarterly target.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there trying to decide, okay, what's the right thing to do? Be with her and take her because her partner at the time wasn't available. He was working. So do I spend the time and take her to the hospital and, doctors and stuff? Or how do I work around this? And ultimately, it was a very quick decision for me. I thought to myself, all right, Michelle's been here for 2.5 years. She's dedicated 40 hours times that by 40 weeks, 48 weeks, close to 2,000 hours times that by 3 years, 6,000 hours she's committed to this business. I think the best thing I can do is commit to 6 to 8 hours of looking after her for the day.
Yeah.
We rescheduled the meetings to next week. We still closed those deals. We went into the next quarter. She stayed on with us for at least another couple of years.
Amazing.
So that's sacrifice. That's putting people first.
Yeah, I love that. I always say people before process, before progress. unfortunately, the other two get a lot of attention, and then it's, oh, we should look after the people, and then they're not there. So
Yes. Yeah.
that's an awesome example of that. I love one of your quotes. You either read history or you write it. The choice is yours. I love that because I'm a big believer.
Yeah.
Mm.
And we've got the power to, you wake up every day, you put in the work,
Yeah.
and you're writing your history every single day, good or bad. So if
Yeah.
I wake up and I don't feel like going to the gym and I don't, I'm writing my history there. But if I do, I'm building discipline to build a better story that I can then share with people.
Yeah, love it. I love it. Every day, I mean, it's a bit of a meme, but every day is a new page, a new chapter. You get, one thing we all have, it doesn't matter who you are, where you are in the world, your age, your gender, we all have choice,
Yes.
and we all have choice of our thoughts, right? So thoughts create feelings, which create our outcomes. So we all have that piece there, which is, it's a gift, I guess, at the end of the day. What are you, Alex, seeing? Like, the world's changed. It has changed, and it's continued to change. There's still a lot of uncertainty. I do work around the world, but, I know in Australia firsthand, even with some of my clients, there's a lot of uncertainty. What are you seeing the skills are that businesses will need to remain future fit in business? So if our listeners are listening, whether they're leading in a big corporate or they own their own, startup, what do you think's been the biggest change, and what do we need to move through that?
I think one big aspect that I've noticed, and it's been a long time coming, but it's finally here. I've noticed a lot of people these days, especially the younger generation, looking to work for a company that, one, they believe in, two, is mission orientated, and three, they not only see progress from a job perspective, but also on an individual basis. So they want to grow within the company, not title wise. Yes, that's important, but also to be able to build themselves up on a personal level. So there's some of the things that I've noticed, especially when hiring people.
Yeah.
Really got to talk about the vision and mission, sell it. And I think the younger generation a lot smarter emotionally in terms of picking up what's fluff and what's not.
Yeah.
As in, like, if you don't really believe in your mission, they sense it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it has made people reevaluate their purpose. And, that's why
Yes.
1 in 3 people have a side hustle at the moment outside a corporate role, because they're not satisfying that purpose and getting that fulfillment in maybe a corporate role. So they're doing something else. And with online, I mean, the world's your oyster, right? I always think, I've just turned 51, but I was entrepreneurial from age 10. And I always think, wow, if they'd been online back then, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Yeah, I think purpose is a big one. You spot on, and also a development pathway. One of the keys, I work with a few recruiters. One of the key questions they're being asked is, will I have a coach or mentor? And what is the development pathway? Which I think's great. You get a few leaders that go, oh God, what a pain. And I'm like, it's just because you're looking at it as more work, when actually this isn't an and, this is an or in your role.
Well, yeah. And your role as a leader is to develop people, because fundamentally you don't have a business without people in it.
That's right.
And people who love it, people who are passionate about it, people who go beyond the duty of call. Like that's your responsibility. It's not something I wake up and I go, I think it's a privilege to be an entrepreneur, because I get to hire people, help them develop. I get to build products and services that has a positive impact. That's not a chore. That's something to be grateful for.
Yeah.
Not many people can be an entrepreneur.
No. And I think there's a false stigma, unless you're in it, of what it is.
Yes.
You probably
100%.
get different people you come across that go, I'm thinking of leaving and doing what you do. And you just go, do you realize how much is behind it? And I believe everything we do leads us to who we are today, right? So
yeah, for sure.
Piece as well. Yeah, we do a lot of work, Alex, on communication, collaborative communication in teams. We've actually got a board game that we launched late last year. And, they're saying at the moment, I think it's 80, this is a communication statistic, 86%, leaders are saying 86% of workplace issues are coming from communication breakdowns. So communication
Wow.
is responsible at 86%. And I agree, I see it. So communication to
Mm.
me, we could talk about this for 20 days. There's so much in it. What are some tips you've got around communication, especially multi-generational companies communicating and being collaborative?
I think focusing on what's right, not who's right.
Yeah.
That's always been a big
Mm,
focus of mine in every business,
yeah.
because at the end of the day, I don't care who comes up with the idea. I just want to get there. And
Yeah.
if you come up with the idea, it's better than mine, and we get there faster, more effectively, more profitably. Who, who, I
Yeah.
don't care,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And two, we also had a rule that, if someone has said something to you and you don't like that, and then we had a rule where you couldn't go up and tell someone else in the business about it.
Yeah.
You just have to go and have a conversation with that person, because by the time you have a conversation with me, then I have a conversation with someone else about it. Before it actually gets to that other person, it's a completely different story. So if someone has said something to you, maybe they didn't mean it in the way that you thought. And we used to teach people how to approach
Yeah.
conversations like that. So it wasn't like, okay, well, you didn't like it, go have a conversation with them, because most people are not really trained up to be having tough, uh,
Humans
meetings like that.
communication, right? It's a human nature. Yeah.
Yeah. So we provide the right training, got them skilled up to be able to handle those on their own, and we realized that there was a lot of growth that they achieved just by going through that process.
That's the thing. Conflict, I believe, if it's addressed properly, and you can't avoid conflict, but you can say
Yes.
if addressed properly, you can actually end up building deeper rapport with that person because you've both just shown your cards, you've been open. I'm a big believer in that. I always say, if something's bothering you, leave it. If the next day it's still on your mind, address it, unless it's
Yeah.
something pretty major. And communication too, we've never been more connected, yes, yet disconnected, right? So in Australia,
Hmm.
I think it's most companies are doing 3 days in the office, 2 days remotely. I think now more than ever, and I'm a big advocate for one-on-one coaching and mentoring, I think that's the bit that needs to be ramped up. I think there's been so much team connection that there's a lot of people that aren't really spending that one-on-one time finding out what lights Joe up, what motivates him, how can I give him more of that? What are your thoughts on that?
One of the things we used to do in a previous business is, and we still do it at Windsor now, as soon as someone signed, you know, jumped on board within a business, we would send, as part of the onboarding process, we would send them a document.
Yeah.
And that document would have, what's your favorite food? What are your goals this year personally? What are your interests and passions? And that just gave us so much insight about the person. And we used to actually have a KPI that your goal every week is to reach out and connect with someone new that you haven't,
Yeah.
and just have a 5-10 minute conversation with them. But before you do, have a read of, their background, so you get a good understanding of who they are and their culture. And yeah, it was deep.
Yeah.
Like, people got a sense of who everyone was. And as a result, we're able to grow so much faster. Not that we did it for that, but that was just a byproduct of it.
Yeah, I love that. I think the more teams get curious and collaborate and get to understand each other, they co-create, and the byproduct's collaboration. And I think it is the little things, and even I was talking to a client yesterday around really making sure there's a few people in their office that culturally a part of their culture, they sort of walk in and just go straight to their desk. And I said, it's just about creating forums where, it's set a bit of, it's almost set as a KPI that they attend these forums, where we've got companies, Alex, through Gift Mindset doing Win Wednesdays and Failure Fridays. So it's not I did this, it's I did this, but this is how I got through it. So that's a survival guide for someone else. And it creates this psychological safety that people can start to take risks and be supported.
And, again, it all comes down to caring. Like, for example, you might be at work and someone says to you, I'm having a really bad day, right? And most often people don't actually say, you know what, should we go for a walk? Do you want to talk about it? So, the weekend's coming up, what are you up to? Like, it's like they're not even
listening.
They're not listening, right? And why are you not listening? Because you don't care. You're either in it for yourself, or you got your own issues, or whatever it might be. So I think having care as one of the core values within a business ultimately will help transform the culture into a place where everyone's trying to help each other succeed.
Yeah, I love that. And culture, you'd know this too. Like 10 years ago, you never heard the word culture. You just didn't hear it. Now it's, and I asked a group the other day, what does culture mean to you? And they're like, oh, it's just how we are. And for me, it's shared values, beliefs, societal norms. But for me, it's squeezed out the essence of that organisation and those people. The essence is what makes it up. And I think it's something that has to be ingrained and almost maintained ongoing. And the things you've suggested are great. Yeah.
It's what you stand for as a company.
Yeah.
And not stand for too.
And not stand for. Yeah. And bringing values in, we all know the places that have values stuck on the wall and on a mug and on their screensaver, and you ask someone, what are your values? And they don't know, right?
Yeah.
I've only recently, it's only when you're out of something sometimes you can look back, but I run some values elicitation programs, and one of the GMs said to me, where's a place that practices values who's like the poster child? And I went, Mars. We had quality, freedom, I've got to remember them now, no pressure, quality, freedom, mutuality, efficiency, and there was one, and reliability. And I look back now and, from going in as a grad to, a senior leader, if ever I got stuck on something, my manager would go, hey, Renee, go through those 5 values. Which value isn't it aligned with? And I not aligned with quality. He goes, well, don't do it. So I think people need to bring their values in every time they're making a decision. I think that's important.
One of the very small things we used to do that made a huge impact was the screensaver of every computer or screen of every laptop or just desktop had our values and had our mission and had the things that we took pride in.
Yeah.
So it was a reminder every morning when you come in, or you're switching from your computer to your laptop to the desktop, you see it. So it's just reinforcing it every time.
I love that because it's ingrained and brought into conversation. Any team workshop, doesn't matter who runs it, that should be up the front, I've got some quick trivia for you, Alex. Favorite word?
Here we go. Excellence.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a beautiful, even word too. I mean, I'll CD on the even. What sound or noise do you love?
The first thing that comes to mind is when you get a swoosh in a basketball game.
Love it. I'm only getting to understand all that because my nephews play basketball and I go.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. How long have you been playing?
The one that jumps up and gets excited and they're like, no, that was the other team. I'm like, oh. One doesn't let me go now. If you had one last meal, what would it be?
There's this Persian meal called kubide, which is like meat, rice, and it's got grilled tomatoes. That definitely would be my last meal.
Yum, yum. I'm a bit of a foodie. Cooking's my passion out of work, so I had to get that one in there.
Uh, aren't you running classes as well?
Yeah, I've got a cook and connect retreat I've started. So we've run a few and we're running them to teams now, in-house teams. So we
Great.
do a cooking class. I help the chef because it's not my venue, and then
Sure.
have a beautiful lunch, and then we tailor the workshop sessions aligned to that group for the afternoon. Really cool.
Okay.
Yeah, my happy place.
Beautiful.
Yeah. If you had another profession and doing amazing, but what would you attempt?
Basketball, becoming a professional basketball player
Oh, do you
and
do?
playing in the NBA.
Oh, yeah, aim high. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Do you do any coaching now, like in Melbourne for teams?
I'd like to in the future. I think I would have some issues being a coach, mainly because I'm extremely passionate, and I'd probably got to withhold that passion slightly to be a coach and keep parents happy.
Yeah.
So, and I'd probably technically I would need to know more about the game to be a good basketball coach. Like fundamentally, I understand I've been playing since I was 8, so over 3 decades. But yeah, technically, I don't get it to the degree that I need to. So yeah, maybe one day in the future for sure.
Love it, love it. So look, I've absolutely loved having you on the show. How do people find you and find a bit more about your 40-step framework and what you do?
Well, the only social platform that I'm actually on is LinkedIn. So definitely reach out and connect with me. Check out our content, obviously at our website, windsoradvisers.co. That's advisors with an E, not an O. And yeah, let's start that conversation. One of the things that's quite unique about our company is that we only work with, by design, we only work with one company per industry at any given time.
I'm the same.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Not many people are, though, and we don't have to be, but I just don't feel doesn't align with my values working with competitors.
Yeah. Just something about it doesn't sit well. It gives the companies we work with a competitive advantage. Yeah. And also it just gives you the ability to spend more time with one company rather than spreading yourself thin. And I honestly do believe success lies in the details, and you can't really get into the details unless you have an intimate understanding of a business. So that's some of the reasons why we do that. But yeah, you can jump on our website, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn, and
yeah, amazing. And you post some great content, great videos, and I totally resonate with, just really congruent and passionate with what you do. So we'll put all your details in the show notes. So thank you
Appreciate that.
On the Limitless Leaders podcast. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem at all. And thank you for those that are listening in. As always, we'd love your feedback. If you're enjoying the podcast, feel free to rate it and share it with those that will benefit. And yeah, if you're looking at any in-house programs or want to see our upcoming public programs, just go to reneegiarrusso.com. Have a great day or night wherever you are in the world. Thank you for listening to the Limitless Leaders podcast. So you don't miss an episode, make sure you follow the show in your favorite podcast app. Feel free to share this podcast with your family, friends, and work colleagues. If you're enjoying the show, find out more on what we do at RG Dynamics at www.reneegiarrusso.com. Until next time, be limitless.